Hey folks, VM Explorer here today. Welcome to another part or another series on the 10 gigabit NAS home lab. And today we're going to be working with that Synology disk station, in particular the DS1621 Plus. So we're going to be kind of going through the 21 Plus setup and a quick overview. So let's get started on it. So one of the things I love to do is I love to go in and make sure before I pick out these units, I like to go through their website, make sure I know a little bit about what I'm getting myself into. And, looking at their basic product sheet, they have a good way of communicating that. I mean, they've got all the different links up here, which are really handy, comparing the different units to downloads, which I try to download everything, as you know, looking at different compatibility and performance. And then, of course, as you kind of scroll down here, you get a feel of the actual unit, an AMD Ryzen chip. It's got dual NVMe in it, right, for cache. It's going to be, they're always faster, right? They're always faster than predecessors. One thing I do like about this unit, though it has space for the 5 drives in it, is the expansion unit, which almost looks exactly the same. In fact, if you didn't see me click there, you would think we're on the same page, but it's very similar, right? This DX517 is going to allow me to expand 5 more disks into the 1621 through that extension cable in the back. Now there's more downloads and compatibility it talks about, but it's pretty much compatible with a lot of their more recent devices, including the 1621 Plus. So I don't have that particular unit, right? That is this 517 here. I don't have that particular unit, but I just want to point out that's kind of a nice option to think about. You get a 5 tray unit and maybe you wanted to expand it to 10 disks, right? And that's always a thing. We're always needing more space, and this is a great way. So that's a nice feature in the 1621 Plus to have that expandability for it. And with that expandability comes, of course, compatibility lists, right? Always something very important, and I highly recommend that folks do it. Take time to read your data sheets, right? That's what they're here for. They're here to explain to you what this unit is about. One of the things I look for in particular is VMware compatibility, and is it on the HCL, the hardware compatibility list? In this case, the unit is. Now, here's what you need to know about this, and I've talked to Synology a bit about this and kind of got clarification. Right? If we go to the hardware compatibility list, right, and we type in, 1621, which is our basic model, it doesn't come up, right? But the first thing we got to do is make sure you're on storage and SAN, which we are. That's good, right? And then we can go into just right into Synology. Okay, view and update results. But if you notice here, there's lots of different devices, but the 1621 Plus isn't specifically listed. That's because it's a disk station series, okay? And what they've done is they've kind of combined all these disk station plus series, right? You can see it's compatible with iSCSI here, all the way up to 70U2. So it falls underneath this one particular line item. And as they progress it and a lot of more of their systems, you'll start to see more of this and less of individual units being called out, which isn't a bad option. It's an easy way to get everything compatible. Most of these systems are built on the same chassis, the same design, same processors, just different feature sets that they come along with, like disk expansion and things like that. But that's not the end of compatibility. Oh no, there's more, right? We also want to think about our hard disk compatibility, because they do call this out. When we look at this, like this expansion unit here, there's actually a link right here that they highly recommend. You're using compatible supported drives, right? Not just any old SATA, any SSD. And is it necessary? You could probably get away with it, but it is strongly recommended. And they call it out here. It's strongly recommended that you only install drives listed on your device compatibility list, right? So they're calling that out pretty specific because they probably have seen different issues, different customers calling in and RAID sets are having problems or whatever the challenge is, right? And if you're going to do it right, do it right. Go into here and get your device compatibility list. And check it out. And it's pretty simple. You just put in your product number, right? Just type it in and type in what type of disk you're looking for, what you're trying to be compatible with. In this case, hard disks and SSDs. no big deal. And they start listing out all the different disks that are listed as compatible. Some of them, if you note here, like this one here, this Synology disk, is saying, hey, you need to upgrade. And that's important too. You'll notice there'll be notes under each one of these. You might look and see what's going on here, right? There might be different things about this particular disk that you're choosing. Always read the notes. That's true on the VMware hardware compatibility list too, no matter what the device is. As you go through and you start looking at these different devices, you'll notice here as I click on this one, let's just click on a model as an example, right? When I click on here, there's going to be subnotes that are included with that particular item that you're going to want to follow, right? First off, we can see right away we get different compatibility levels with vSphere, right? This one looks like it's having a little trouble coming up. Let's try a different one here. See if we can get it to come up. There it goes. It finally popped up. So like I said, there's different notes that are going to come up here. Like, for example, things to realize, like this particular unit, this 1515 plus, right? If you want to run U2, 7.0 U2, you need to be at this probably firmware version, right? Or at least the latest one to be compatible. And as you start expanding it, there's different notes in here. There's different attention pieces in here, right? There's more notes up here that you might want to read. So make sure you read the compatibility guide. It's not that it's just on there. You want to read the notes. That's why they put them out there, right? Some don't have notes, some do, right? But make sure you read the notes and know what you're getting yourself into. You might save yourself a world of hurt. So, okay, enough with the product. Let's look at the actual unit. Now, I was able to find its IP address pretty easily. I just jumped into my router, right? And I found it listed here under Synology NAS for attached device. And this is just an example router that I have out here that I use for this lab, right? So I see Synology Lab here. I know it's on 74.10. And I simply direct the browser to it. And what do you know? I'm into the disk. And it says, hey, look, no disks. It's because I didn't put any in, right? And I did that intentionally just to see what it would do. So I was able to power up. I was able to come up with the web browser and actually give me a site, but it wasn't able to give us anything because there's no disks, right? And that goes back to download everything, right? Get all your guides, get your hardware guide, get your user's guide, get your data sheet, right? Do all the downloads, all the software that comes with this thing. Get it all. In fact, that's what I would recommend to Synology. Make it easy for us. Give us an ISO. Put all this in one download. I'm going to do it anyways, and I have to click every single download to get everything. It's so frustrating. Give me a package, like a release, you know, a rev with all these in it. That would be so helpful to do. But anyways, let's get back to the hardware installation guide. So you're going to want to follow along this guide if you're doing this for the first time, right? There's a lot of good information in here. It's not very long, 21 pages or so, right? It explains a lot of the cable trays, the keys, the locks, all the buttons, where all the LEDs are, you know, different, you know, expansion bays, like 16 here is your eSATA port for expansion, you know, explains all that. And we've talked about these items in my previous video. No big deal. More, you know, different items and compatibility. The RAM modules, the network modules, the expansion bay. It gives you all kinds of great information about it. I mean, nice pictures, really clear. Hey, there's even a power supply. That's awesome. And the fan, too. Tells me information about that, which is super cool, right? That's the type of information I can appreciate. Okay, different warnings. And now we actually get into the setup. And of course, that's what they say before you power this on. You're going to want to get a hard disk installed. Now, I will say these trays, these plastic trays that are keyless, they're okay. All right, you can get a disk in there, you can smack them in there, and those little plastic clips, they're kind of handy. They're a little hard on the fingers, you know, a little bit for me, but they get the job done, right? They're not screw-in. They're just basically clips that plug in the drive and hold it in place, which is no big deal, right? So unless you're doing SSD, you know, the smaller guys, the little 2.5s, then you actually have to place it and actually use the screw kit it came with. You insert the drive, right? And this is one of the things I like about this particular bay is it actually has a key right here to lock the drives in. Very important. I mean, you get a little bump or a little push on there and you might eject the disk and have a bad day. So definitely lock your drives. They highly recommend that as well. That's the first step you should do. Now, I didn't do that on purpose because I wanted to see what it would do, right? That's the fun in the lab, playing around, right? And Now all the drives are in, then you start it up and plug it in. That's exactly what I did. I got the interface cable right here, got it going, got it to get a DHCP address, and away you go. I was able to get into the web module. Adding the memory upgrade if you need to, that's on the bottom plate. No big deal. Probably not want to do that live. Of course, it says shut down your NAS, right? Do it properly. Upgrade the RAM if you need to. Goes to that, and then it talks about, you know, adding NVMe's. These are kind of neat. They're actually located on the inside of the unit. So let me bring a picture up of it real quick here. So if you pull out these two discs right here on this wall on the inside right there is where these are actually at, and they were pretty easy to install, toolless, which is nice. They just kind of clipped into place. Though these look vertical, they're actually horizontal inside the unit. But yeah, they clip in really nice and easy. Make sure you get them seated in there really well, because the clip, though, it holds it in place pretty well. It's a little kind of not really wonky. It's just, you just have to get used to using it. You know, if you're using a clip instead of just screwing it in, right? We're used to having it screwed in and it fits really well. The clip is there, it works really well. Just get used to it. Make sure that you get good contact with that NVMe device there. You know, adding the interface card, I've done that as well. We talked about in the previous video, we got that all inserted. No big deal. Okay. And then system maintenance, which is always important. And we talked about this in the previous video when we ripped this apart. Pulling the fans out was super easy. Give them an A+ on that. Oh my goodness. I mean, that's one of the best maintenance things I've seen for fans in a while. Couple 4 screws, pull it out, disconnect it, take it down to the good old air machine or vacuum and clean those fans. Hooray. Thank you for doing that. Such a great job there. All right. Then fan replacement, and it goes on for other things. But really, you know, and then your troubleshooting guide. So that's the gist of it. I mean, the gist of it is you need to get drives installed first, else you're going to get this error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pop my 2 drives in, and then we're going to come back in here, and we'll continue the video from there. All right, so we got the drives installed. So we're going to click on refresh here and get it to populate. There it is. So now that with drives in the device, we're actually able to finish the setup of the 1621 Plus. All right, so just letting me know, hey, install the latest. Okay, you can do it manually if you want, or install now. I'm going to choose install now and let it do its thing. Okay. Yep. And away it goes. So we'll let it go through its process here. It shouldn't take too terribly long. Pause the video and we'll be right back when it finishes up. All right, so we're about 57% done. What it did in this first section was actually download the disk installation, disk station manager program, and now it's actually going through the installation procedure to move forward. If you also notice, it says approximately 10 minutes to complete this process. So we'll let it finish up here and take it off pause as things change. All right, it finished up doing its installation, and now it's going to start by restarting the NAS. When that happens, I'm sure it's going to go through some initial setup and whatnot. It's going to take about 10 minutes or so for that to finalize. And then when it does, we'll refresh the browser here, and we'll get into the final setup steps of this 1621 Plus. All right, and we're back. So we were about, I don't know, it was about 6 minutes or so left, somewhere in that range, right? We got a beep from the unit, and then once it beeped, the browser refreshed, and now it's coming up with the launching the built-in packages as it completes this kind of initial setup steps for us. So I'm going to pause the video again as we move forward through this, and as new things pop up, we'll unpause it and see what's next. Oh, there it is. Hey, look, didn't even have to pause it. That was quick. Right, so welcome to DS1621. New or next generation data management begins here. It should have like a little song or something when it does that. Here it is. Okay, so let's click on start, get it going here. I'm just going to call this DS1621. All right, admin. Okay, password. Does not like that. Okay, so we're gonna have to choose something else, huh? There we go. And looks like I got a typo. All right. I think we are good to go. I'm pretty sure that's what its problem was, right? Let's see here. Nope, doesn't like admin. That's its problem. All right. So not using admin as the administrator account. We'll just call it DSM admin. We don't need to save it. That's fine. All right. So update option, automatically import DSM. Okay. That's recommended. Automatically install, notify me. Let's leave it what's recommended. Automatically install. Different products and benefits they have. I'm going to skip for now. Set it up later. Send analytics. I agree. This is the demo unit. Perfectly okay sending them information to help them out. All right. And we are just about done. So now we're at one of the last steps, which is just creating a storage pool or a volume, right? So we can get going. So let's create that now. It's going to take me into the kind of the storage wizard, I'm sure. There it is. All right. So let's get started here. We're just going to do a RAID 1, 2 drives. Okay. Which were good. I don't need a description of it. Those are the 2 disks. Now, like the previous videos I've done, I've always tried to use mix match drives, right? So if you notice here, one drive is 2.7 terabyte, which is basically a 3 terabyte drive. And then we've got this 149 gigabyte drive. And what you'll notice is as I choose these drives, my estimated capacity is less than the smallest one, and that makes sense because you can't have a RAID group that is bigger than one of the drives, so it's going to always choose the smallest capacity, and sure enough it did. Now I'm doing this on purpose because we're going to want to expand this drive, this RAID type here, and put more drives in and have some fun with it, experiment around. So that's why I'm putting these smaller drives in here just to get started, right? See how it handles. All right, so please note the following regarding the selective drives not listed on the compatibility. Remember we mentioned that earlier. Hey, check out that compatibility list, right? It's kind of important. And again, they're warning you, saying, hey, look, we're just letting you know, fair warning, you're putting in SATA drives. You know, a little flag should come up and say, oh, by the way, you're putting in a really old 160 gig SATA disk from way back when. That might be a problem, right? And that's fair enough, right? They're at least giving you a warning. That's very responsible of them. And they're telling you where to look to find the compatibility. And I would say definitely if you are into making sure you got a solid system that's going to perform well, you definitely want to go with their compatibility list. It's the best way to gain support from a manufacturer like Synology. All right, so let's hit continue. Okay. You know, I'm going to say perform drive check. It's saying skip, but I'm going to let it do it because I know that one drive is pretty old, right? And it hasn't been used in a while. It's been sitting around. So let's do a drive check and we'll let it go do its thing. Okay. It talks about the available capacity. No big deal here. We're just going to click on max for the allocated size for this particular volume, right? Next. Do we want it to allow for the snapshots, right? Or the ext4. Okay, we'll leave it at what they recommend for now. That's fine. And then just a quick summary. No big deal. Okay, last warning. Nice pop-up. And away it goes. So now it's going to go through its steps and get this particular RAID group set up and ready to go. Let's go ahead and pause the video and we'll be back on in a minute with the next steps. And there it is. All right, so it's actually going through its setup right now. We can see that it's optimizing in the background, right? So it's getting it ready to go. Quick tour, bunch of healthy things, you know, that are popping up. No big deal. So folks, that is it for today. Once again, we talked about the 1621 plus. You know, we talked about you know, its expandability with this unit. We also talked about reading the data sheets and understanding compatibility, whether it be their compatibility list or the VMware compatibility list. We went through the actual NAS setup and got it started, and we are progressing nicely. Next videos to come up, we'll be adding a lot more disks to it, changing things around, maybe sticking a bad drive in there, all that type of stuff. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I do hope you have a glorious day, evening, or morning, wherever you're at. and do take care. Hit subscribe below.